And hey, it's Wednesday. Let's have Ask a Congressman Day. Our old friend Congressman Mark Pocan is on the line with us and willing to spend the hour with us taking calls from our listeners. Do I have that right, Congressman?
Absolutely, Tom. This is one of the best hours of the week.
Wonderful, wonderful, and I'm so glad that you can be with us, Congressman. It's an honor. It's always an honor and pleasure to host you on this program. There is a lot going on right now. The thing that's at the top of my head that is kind of spooky, and is the EPA being shut down. The various federal agencies that deal with science, basically being shut down, told not to talk to the press. These gag orders. I mean, this is really, in my opinion, dangerous and serious stuff. I'm curious your thoughts on what is happening right now with regard to science in the executive branch and how we should react to it.
Well, and, we're actually getting calls back home, too, Tom, on this. People are just concerned that, if you stop communication from agencies, which has, been a directive from the White House via Reince Priebus, we've seen them cleanse websites since they've come in. We've seen them cleanse issues around LGBT issues and anything around climate change. And we have to see how extensive this is, and if this means they're going to just shut down any conversations around the science of climate change and other issues. It's going to be a whole different ballgame for us to be dealing with. I mean, we're still obviously going to talk about those issues. The scientists are going to talk about those issues. But the fact that the federal government now is going to kind of rewrite history and ignore them could be of severe consequences.
Yeah, shades of the White Rose Society. I believe it was in the Dakotas. One of the national parks had been, or one of the. Where did my note go? Anyhow, the Badlands National Park started tweeting out facts about climate change, and then they got stepped on with a big foot. And so now, apparently, a couple of former employees of the Badlands National Park have created an alternative Twitter feed, and they're feeding this information out. I mean, it's like, how to get around the machine. And then also yesterday, Sean Spicer called on a quote news site that was put together by Laura Ingraham that had been peddling all kinds of weird, anti-Hillary conspiracy theories and John Podesta and blood rituals and all kinds of weird stuff. It was like one of the major fake news sites last year, and they're now in the White House being called on. I mean, what is going on here?
Well, and throw on top of it the alternative facts debate, right?
Yeah.
That somehow you could have what is normally called falsehoods or lies, now are just alternative facts. And the president's obsession, and it is a true obsession, on the fact that he won by 3 or 5 million votes because of illegal voting. He's now put new tweets out, and I guess that's how we get directives now, that he's going to do investigations into the voting. I mean, we're just seeing a lot of very strange behavior already in the first week, and I think some of us had hoped that maybe post-inaugural would suddenly see a more dignified presidential Donald Trump, but I think the Donald Trump of the campaign may be here to stay.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel apocalyptic about this. By the way, we're talking with Congressman Mark Pocan for the hour. He'll be taking your calls on pretty much any topic you want to talk with him about. The phone number here, 202-808-9925. Congressman, what are the top things on your agenda? What's before Congress right now? What's before? You're also the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, as I recall.
First vice chair. So
first vice chair.
Ellison and Raul Grajal are co-chairs. I'm the first vice chair. And
right. So what are you guys up to?
I'll tell you what we're up to, and really had a lot of conversations this week, is about how we take this tremendous energy from this weekend, and it really was amazing and tremendous energy that occurred, and make sure we can put it to action. In Madison, Wisconsin, and I know you know that area, Tom, 75 to 100,000 people came out to a rally on Saturday, and across the country over the 600 rallies. It was just an enormous amount of people who spoke out. And how do we take that energy and make it work like we did that very first day of session when we were able to fight back on the changes in the ethics laws?
Yeah.
So I think what we're talking about is, some of us are proposing that we start going into Republican districts and talking about Democratic issues, because unfortunately, they often don't hear the alternative, right? They're just hearing these alternate facts, I guess, that the Republicans are going to now put out there, as opposed to where the Democrats and progressives are on issues. And I think we just want to make sure that people realize there is an alternative, and that we're fighting back where we need to fight back. But we're going to put out progressive alternatives, positive alternatives as well, so people can really see the difference.
I think I've been saying for some time, in fact, back when I was predicting that Trump would win the Republican primary, and in fact, when I was semi-predicting that he would win the White House, I mean, I thought it was possible, and I said it over and over again. Not a certainty by any means, but it was because I said that a year and a half ago, he basically was running as a Democrat. He said, "I'm not going to touch your Social Security. I'm going to protect Medicare and Medicaid from the Republicans. They want to slash it. I'm not going to allow it to happen." He said we're gonna blow up these trade deals. Well, these trade deals have been Republican projects for the last 40 years. He ran as a Democrat, and I think that's why Republicans voted for him, because by and large, if you look at the issues, the American people prefer the Democratic take on the issues. So, I got this sense from some of Senator Schumer's releases and comments and things that they wanted to basically hang that around him and say, okay, Mr. Trump, you ran for president on this campaign of protecting Social Security. Now you got Mulvaney, who wants to head the OMB, saying, well, yeah, I guess they put me there to help slash the entitlement programs. And you got Price talking about block granting Medicare. I mean, this is, how do you deal with this?
Well, and that's what they're going to have to deal with. We were just talking this morning about that. We always do a Progressive Caucus alternative budget proposal, and we put a lot of effort into that. That's our major kind of document we work off of during the year, and we're trying to figure out how they're going to have the disconnect between the White House and the Republicans in Congress on some of these major issues. But so far, it looks like the Republicans in Congress have been kind of winning out on most of these things. If you look at the orders short of the TPP, which was already a done deal because of the public in
well, and Hillary Clinton campaigned against it. I mean, so yeah, it was dead.
I mean, exactly. So that was already kind of a done deal. But everything else that he's done so far has largely been just mainstream Republican stuff, and the ones that we're hearing may happen today or tomorrow are clearing the way for torture again, keeping Gitmo open, a temporary ban on refugees from a number of countries, including Syria and other Middle Eastern and African countries, talking about the wall now. He did talk about that, but that's going to come out right away. And now this new investigation on voter fraud. So far, everything is Republican talking points, not the more Democratic tendencies that he talked about during the campaign. Instead, this is like, this is as if Paul Ryan were in the White House himself.
Yeah. And you said the mainstream Republican Party. This is not, my dad was a Republican until the day he died, and we debated politics from the time I was 16 years old. And in fact, we were very political before that, but I had followed him as a Republican and walked door to door for Barry Goldwater in '64 at the age of 13. But by the time I was 16, I was on the other side. My dad and I were debating, and he would not recognize this Republican Party. I don't see anything mainstream about this, other than the fact that the majority of the Republicans, with all this money from petro billionaires, which the media completely does not discuss, the Koch network, larger than the Republican Party, huge influence in the last election. There's just it's like how can we even think of this as a mainstream party?
Well, I guess I say mainstream in that that's where the Republican Party is now among the elected officials, right? We even looked at things like John McCain, will likely, stand strong against the torture initiatives that we're going to see coming out of this White House. But we talked about who could we work with in the House, and we are having a hard time thinking of Republican House members that might stand up against torture that could,
Justin Amash. I mean, he's the only guy, isn't he?
Yeah, there's so few. So I think what I'm saying is by mainstream is that's where the current Republican Party maybe leadership is and their thoughts, where I agree with you. I mean, Ronald Reagan would not recognize this party. Most anyone who is a mainstream Republican from years past wouldn't recognize this Republican Party. But this is the one that the Koch brothers have bought, purchased, and delivered.
Yeah, and seem to be running. It's from everything I can tell. Catherine, watching Free Speech TV in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Okay.
Hey, Catherine.
Thank you for taking my call. I've been watching you ever since we've had Free Speech TV, and very encouraged by having your program to watch.
Thank you.
I want to ask him. He knows Congress pretty good. Apparently, he's there.
Well, you're talking right to him right now, Congressman. Say hi.
Yeah, hi, Catherine.
Congressman,
How you doing?
Congressman Pocan, what is the most effective way for somebody with very limited means to help support this movement to get our politics back where it used to be?
I'll tell you, my advice that I get
Thank
asked
you.
this question literally every block when I'm walking down the street back in district, because this is the concern that everyone has, is whatever issue is most important to you, whatever cause that you have the most concern could be under attack, go to those grassroots groups that are working on it and double down. And, if you have the ability to help donate, you can do that. But more importantly, volunteer your time and efforts and work with them and help spread the message through social media and your friends about those issues, because the way we're going to win anything in the coming years is going to be because the grassroots stood up and fought back. And, we're the legislative arm here in Congress, but across the country, everyone is all a part of the resistance. We're just that legislative arm of the resistance here in Washington, D.C. So whatever you can do to help support those organizations, because some of these are going to be legal battles, I think challenging things that are going to come out of groups. Some of it's going to be just shaming them into not even doing it, like we did with the ethics laws changes. But that's how we're going to win, because the people agree with us on the issues, but we have to get them activated and motivated to contact their members of Congress and fight back. But the grassroots groups are the best way to do that.
In other words, as Joe Madison says, make it a movement, not a moment. Are you seeing anything coming out of the Women's March or other programs that gives you a sense that a movement is forming, as opposed to?
Absolutely. So let me give you one example. And I listened to you on the radio, by the way, on the way to our march, and then I used Joe Madison's line with one of the groups I talked to that day.
That's great.
So thank you for that. I'm going to use that more often.
You're welcome.
And what's really important in Madison, for example, we have a group called Leading Locally. They had about 250 to 300 people got together before the march, and they broke out into groups, 12 different groups in issue areas, and had 30, 60, and 100-day plans on how to deal with this. And I came in while they were reporting back on the progress they had in their groups, and it's amazing. They're getting really smart and organized in how to fight back so that they have the infrastructure to do that. If we see that in other communities across the country, and maybe we'll see the Democratic Party be a little bit more progressive, grassroots-based if Keith Ellison becomes the chair in February. We have the potential to really have this enormous ability in every single state and every single congressional district to fight back. So I'm seeing it. And like I said, back in Madison, Wisconsin, it was Leading Locally. But if other groups or other communities are doing the same thing, that's how we can be as organized.
How can we lobby for Congressman Ellison very quickly?
I'll tell you, if people contact their Democratic National Committee members in each state, generally it's the party chair and vice chair, and then there's some elected people, and there's some at-large members.
How do you find that list?
I think you can find it generally like on each Democratic Party page, but I know there's a page that we'll get to you, Tom. I will get you the list so you can post that. If people contact their members and say, look, I think this is the best thing for the Democratic Party, it really matters as I talk to people when they hear from others.
Okay, great. We'll do it, and we'll pass it along. Congressman Mark Pocan with us for the hour, taking your calls here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 21 minutes past the hour.